Okay, so let's talk about the sum of a finite geometric sequence, and in the next video we'll talk about an infinite sequence. But let's just keep in mind what a geometric sequence means, right? They have a common ratio, so a geometric sequence looks something like this. It would be the first term, and then the next term would be something times that common ratio, and then the next term would be something times that common ratio squared, and we could keep doing this and keep doing this sequence, right? So the last term in the sequence would be, well, this first one you didn't multiply by the ratio, so it would actually be n minus 1 would be the last term in the sequence, right? So this would be a sequence up to the nth term. We'd have one less ratio because the first term doesn't get one. So let's talk about the sum. Now we did something kind of tricky the last time for our arithmetic one. We're going to do something very similar for this one. Are you ready? We're going to say the sum up to the nth term is going to be this thing. And we know that we could keep doing this thing, but we'll kind of skip these middle terms and we'll come up to here to this guy. So up to the nth term, that would be it. Now what I'm going to do is, instead of flipping the order like I did last time, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to multiply through by one of the ratios. So my first, so this one, if I multiply through by the ratio, the first term that I have will be a to the first times r. So I'll put them here, okay? Then my next one, if I multiply this one by r, it will be a to the first times r squared. And when I multiply this one through, it'll be a to the first times r to the third. And if we keep doing this, well, if this is the n minus 1 term, then when I multiply this through by an r, I'd have r to the n. And why? Well, remember, if I'm multiplying r to the n minus 1 times r to the first, what do you do with the exponents? You add them together. So n minus 1 plus 1 is r to the n, right? So here we are. Now you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to subtract them. And just like in the last one, when we added them together, if we're subtracting them, I'm actually subtracting the same thing from both sides. And that's why this is legal. So if these two things are equal, if this is equal to, let's say this is equal to 20, the sum of this the sum of this sequence is 20, then all of these would have to add up to 20. So it would be like adding 20 to both sides of this first equation, okay? But in this case, I'm actually going to be subtracting, and that's another thing we're allowed to do with equality. We're allowed to subtract them. So if I subtract them, we get s of n minus this one. And over here, there's no like terms with this one, so he just comes down. He's subtracting from a 0. These two, when I subtract them, well, I get a 0. I get a 0. All these middle ones are going to cancel out. There's even an I sub 1 r to the n minus 1 in here, right? That's the one right before this one. And so the last one left is going to be this one. All right. Now what we really want is for it to be equal to s of n. So I got to get the s of n by itself. So I'm going to factor out the s of n. And then I'm going to divide by 1 minus r. Now, to me, this is the way I remember it, because this one makes sense to me because I know where this comes from or whatever. But other people, they'll factor out the a, and that's perfectly legal. I don't always think of it that way. But if you factor out the a sub 1, you could do 1 minus r over n, 1 minus r. So whichever way is easier for you to remember. This is the one you're going to see in your textbook probably. But this one is fine too. This is probably what you'll see me use just because that's the one I remember. Because that's the one I get when you do the workout. Okay? So now it's just a matter of plugging in the formula. What do I need to know? I need to know what the first term is. I need to know what your ratio is. And I need to know what the last term is. Not the last term. I need to know which is the number of the last term. So really all I need to know is the first term, the ratio, and the number that you're going up to. And you're ready to plug your numbers into your formula.